4th and 5th grade. We're here to finish My Teacher is an Alien. It's the night of the big concert and the night that the kids are going to get kidnapped by Broxholm. So here we go. Chapter 20, Piccolo Power. The alien invasion rumors had reached the adults too, as I found out that night at dinner. "My goodness, Susan," said my mother as she was dishing up my broccoli. "I hope you don't believe any of this nonsense." Believe it, I thought. I started it. But I didn't say that. Instead, I put my soup spoon down and looked at her. "What if I did believe it?" I asked. I tried hard to sound like I was interested, not like I was challenging her. "Well, I suppose we'd have to get you counseling," she said. I could have cried. Obviously, there was no point in asking my parents to help out with this mess. I went upstairs to get ready. Which ones will it be? I wondered as I slipped into my dress. Who was the alien going to steal? I looked in the mirror and crossed my fingers, praying that it wouldn't be me. My parents drove me to the school. They dropped me off and went to find a parking place. I wondered how he's going to do it, I thought as I walked through the door. Will he just freeze everyone here on the spot? Will his ship use some sort of tractor beam to lift up his targets? Or will he wait until later when everyone's asleep and then sneak into their homes and snatch them? The school was fairly zinging with nervous energy. The rumors about the alien invasion were spread all around the grades. The third graders were walking around in pairs, checking over their shoulders at every other step. If I hadn't been so scared myself, I would have laughed. I wanted to grab them and say, "Stop worrying, the alien's not after you." "Hey, Susan," called Peter, "wait up!" Peter was in the chorus. The chorus was bigger than the band. Almost every kid in the 6th grade was a member. They would be singing last of all. Peter looked very nice. He had on a white shirt and a red tie. His pale blonde hair was slicked down. "Is your father here?" I asked. He just stared at me. "Are you kidding?" he asked. We walked on until we came to a private place. "What are we going to do?" I asked. Peter shrugged. "What can we do? Keep our eyes open? Be ready to call out for help when there's something we can prove? Other than that, I can't think of anything. Is Broxholm here?" I nodded. All the teachers had to come to the concert to keep us under control while we were waiting to perform. I figured Broxholm wasn't ready to blow his cover yet. Peter glanced at his watch. "We better get into the gym," he said. "No sense in getting into any more trouble than we have to." The gym was where we had waited for our turn to perform. It was across the hall from the combination cafeteria and auditorium where we put on our concerts. The 3rd grade chorus was about to go on when Peter and I walked in. "Get over here, you two," hissed Miss Tompkins, the world's oldest living 5th grade teacher. "They're ready to start." As we walked across the gym, I heard the 3rd grade chorus begin to sing. They had only gotten through the first 3 notes when the music stopped. I grabbed Peter's arm. What had started it? Had it started already? Not actually. As it turned out, Cindy Farkas had fainted. The chorus teacher, Miss Bimkin, had stopped the program while 2 parents helped Cindy out. Then the singing began again. "False alarm," said Peter with a grin. I nodded, but I didn't feel like smiling. Suddenly I heard a familiar voice. Band members, over this way." It was Mr. Smith. He was standing at the far end of the cafeteria, holding up his hand. "Band members over here," he shouted. "We're going to the primary wing. Mr. Banwick wants to meet you there to tune up." You can bet Broxholm won't stick around for that. Not the way he hates music. That gave me an idea. I might not have done it if I hadn't been feeling so crabby, but between the fact that we hadn't figured out any way to stop Broxholm from kidnapping us and our class, and the fact that he was still holding the best teacher I had ever had prisoner, I was pretty mad. I decided if I couldn't beat the alien, I'd settle for annoying him. So before we started down the hall, I took my piccolo out of its case and put it together. Most of the kids already had their instruments ready. Everyone was nervous, and it wasn't just pre-concert jitters. About half the band was made up of 6th graders. They were the most frightened, of course, especially the ones from our class. "All right, follow me," said Broxholm as he started down the hall. Holding my piccolo behind my back, I positioned myself in the front of the group, and when we got about halfway down the hall, I started to play a scale. "Stop that!" shouted Broxholm before I played just 3 notes. "Just practicing," I said. "Well, don't," he snapped. I'd never heard him sound so cranky before. I must have really gotten to him. I began to wonder if I could break through his false front to get him to show himself for what he really was. I put the piccolo back to my lips and began to play again. "Miss Simmons, stop that," he ordered. But this time I didn't stop. "Please," he said, clapping his hands over his ears. "Miss Simmons, please stop." I couldn't believe it. He was in agony. I began to play louder. "Susan," he howled, "stop!" I took the piccolo away from my lips and for just an instant and said, "Not on your life, Broxholm." Then I started to play again, the best piccolo music I knew, the solo from the Stars and Stripes Forever. "Stop it," said Broxholm, stumbling down the hall ahead of me. "Stop, stop, stop." "Help, you guys," I said. This was a big mistake. As soon as I took a pause from playing, Broxholm spun around and snatched my piccolo. But I pulled it back in safety before he could tear it away from my hands. "Take this, you alien creep," I cried, and then I trilled with a high C. He backed away, holding his hands to his ears. I went back to the Stars and Stripes Forever, starting at the beginning. I heard Mike Ferrand join me with his saxophone. Then Billy Gooch brought in the trumpet. We advanced on Broxholm, playing for all we were worth. He retreated down the hall, his handsome face twisted with pain. Now the clarinets were coming in, and the rest of the trumpets, and then came the drums, and finally, deep and low and powerful, the sousaphone. We sounded fantastic. Mr. Bandwick came running out of the room where he had been waiting for us. "They're playing it," he cried in joy. "They're playing it." But now I heard Dr. Bleakman's charge down the hall. "What's going on here?" he roared. "Smith, Bandwick, can't you keep these kids under control?" "They're playing it," cried Mr. Bandwick joyfully. 7 years I've been waiting for this." "Stop that," roared Bleakman. "No," cried Mr. Bandwick. "Don't stop now. Let me hear it." We couldn't stop. We were on a roll. We had never sounded so good, and Broxholm was crumbling before us. "Stop," he pleaded. "Stop, stop." Adults were crowding out in the auditorium into the hall. "What's going on?" they shouted. "What happened? What's happening out here?" We reached the big finale. I played that trill like I had never played it before. We kept advancing on Broxholm. Soon, the new Kinnatuck Falls Elementary School marching band had the alien cowering in a corner. "What do you want?" he pleaded. I didn't dare stop playing, but Mike stepped in. "Take off your mask," he shouted. "Your mask," cried the others. "Take off your mask. Anything, just stop the noise." "First, your mask," cried the band. Even Dr. Bleakman could see that there was something weird about his favorite teacher now. He waited in silence. I played my trill again. Broxholm reached behind his head and began to peel off his face. Behind us, people started to scream. Someone cried, "What is it? What's happening?" "Oh," someone yelled, "Mr. Smith, he's an alien!" Chapter 21, Out of This World. I thought it was over, but I was wrong. Broxholm was still crouched outside the wall, about 2 feet from the doors to the outside. The rest of us were about 10 feet away from him, staring in horror at his strange alien features. Suddenly, the door to the left of Broxholm opened. It was Peter. He must have run out of the front doors and circled around. "Broxholm," he shouted, "this way, run!" The alien jumped to his feet and took off as if he had rocket-powered roller skates. As soon as he was through the door, Peter slammed it shut. The rest of us started to run too. Then Broxholm pulled something that looked like a thick pencil out of his pocket. He pointed it at the doors and pried them shut. I started to tremble. He could have pointed that at me as if he had really wanted to. He probably could have melted my piccolo with his lips, to my lips. Maybe old Broxholm wasn't so bad after all, I thought, as I stood with my face pressed against the window, watching the alien and my best friend disappear into the night. My best friend? I thought in surprise, but I knew it was true. Peter was my best friend, and now he was gone. Someone had called the police. Pretty soon, their cruisers came screeching into the schoolyard. My mother was flapping her hands and worrying that I might have some alien disease. With all the yelling and shouting, it took the police a while to figure things out. But soon, they put me in a patrol car and we hightailed it out to Broxholm's place. We were only a block from his house when we heard a roar followed by a high whine. Then this thing, this beautiful huge silvery sphere with a wheel of light spinning around it, lifted into the air ahead of us. "Stop the car," I said. I didn't know why, but they did, and probably because the ship was so amazing. I pushed my way past the policeman on my right and stood in the road, watching the ship rise on a column of purple light into the black night. "Goodbye, Peter," I said. "Have a good trip." I felt as if something hard had become stuck in my throat as I watched the ship soar higher and higher until it was lost among the twinkling of the stars. The police sealed off the house just in case there were any aliens left inside. When they finally decided it was safe, I took them to see where Miss Schwartz had been held prisoner. I was afraid Broxholm might have taken her along, but when we climbed the attic, we found her sitting on the floor saying, "This is the worst headache I've ever had." "Miss Schwartz," I cried. I ran to her. She held out her arms, and I fell into them. The two of us cried for a long time, which I think kind of confused the policeman. The rest of the house was empty, except for a note from Peter we found stuck to the refrigerator door. He asked us not to worry and said that he would probably come back again someday. And that was it. Things are back to normal now. At least as normal as they can ever get. Duncan has been picking on everyone he can. Mike and Stacy have regained their angelic reputations, though to tell you the truth, I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to get into a little mischief now and then just for the fun of it. As for me, I'm doing fine. Except when I play my piccolo. That's when I think of Peter. Sometimes I go outside at night to look at the stars. I try to think about how far away Peter is. I only remember how much he wanted to go there. I do wonder where he is and if he's seeing all the wonderful things he used to imagine when he was reading those crazy science fiction novels. Of course, I never really wish I had gone with him. After all, I've got a family that loves me. I like my life here on Earth, but I wonder sometimes what it would be like to travel the stars with aliens. Or maybe with Earthlings. I've been studying math pretty hard lately. I've kind of changed my mind about being an actress. I'm thinking maybe I'll be a scientist when I grow up. I'd like to invent a ship that would take us right out to the solar system, out to explore all those distant stars that fill the night. Worlds where we would be mysterious aliens. Wouldn't that be something? The end. Alright guys, I hope that you enjoyed that, and if you want, when we get back to school, there are sequels to this book in the library. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.